Hey, Grievers and Groovers, how's it going? It's 6-6 today. If you're into numerology, I don't know what that means, except there's two sixes in there. Um, how's it going? I'm a little sad. My friend died over the weekend, and it's been really hard. Um, we're going to talk a little bit about grief today, and then we're going to talk about the really tragic, sad death of Kate Spade. We're going to talk a little bit about the NPR piece. Why don't I start out with the NPR piece? Lots of really great feedback. Hey, Melanie, how's it going? Yeah, so the NPR piece ran, lots of really positive feedback. A lot of people wondering when the next LA party was gonna be, and so I decided to go ahead and host another party at my place right here in the Rock Pad, and had about 10 people interested. Said definitely want to come, put me on the list. I said great, put them on the list. Emailed everybody with all of the information last week, and then I didn't hear anything, just nothing. Nobody responded to any of my emails. So 3 days go by, I check in, hey everybody, you guys coming to the party? And just slowly they've dropped like flies. Because I guess talking about death, in theory, you want to get your poop in a group, but when it comes to it, so I think there's only a hardcore handful that are going to be at the party later on. But, you know, we're still going to do it, and I'm excited to get their advanced planning together. I'm more determined than ever. Hi, Laura. Just talking about people being flaky with good to go, and this happens across the country. I was going to say across the world. No. But I'll schedule parties in different cities, and the cancellation rate is unbelievable. Like everybody wants to do it in theory, but then, have to feel all the feelings. And so this is what I'm saying to all of you guys out there, even though I'm a broken record. And this ties in with everything. But my cousin Billy died. He wasn't my blood cousin. He was an honorary cousin because his parents and my parents were good friends, so much so that his parents were dubbed my aunt and uncle, and so he was my cousin from as long as I can remember. And we all grew up in Dayton, Ohio. My parents met Billy's parents by living next door to them. My parents, when they first got married, lived in a little apartment, and the house next door to them was owned by my friend Billy's parents. And then when they decided to move to a bigger home, they sold the house to my mom. So we moved in. Well, I don't think I was born yet when they moved in. And then when they my parents expanded their family, I took Billy's bedroom. So we both shared the same childhood bedroom, even though we never lived together. And so when Billy died over the weekend, he was 75. So he's, a good 25 years older than me. But we both marveled at the fact that we both shared a childhood bedroom, and we both dreamed big, creative dreams, gazing out of that window, So that's kind of crazy. But tying this in with what we're talking about with the good to go stuff is, I gave Billy a departure file, and every single time that we talked, which was often because he lived in Palm Springs, and I live in Los Angeles. And so when we would talk, I would say, do you have your departure file filled out? Did you fill it all out? Do you have a will? What happens? He had a little doggy named Bubba. I said, what happens to Bubba if something happens to you? So it's good to kind of have these conversations with your people. if you haven't written it down, if you don't have your wishes written down, and your tribe, your loved ones don't know where this information is, please talk to them and tell them what you want, and just tell them the basics, because even a few questions, hypothetical questions with my friend Billy, I was like, who gets your dog? Now, I don't specifically remember who he said, but I do remember he said, that's taken care of. I think it was a friend of his who already has a couple dogs and would look after his dog if Billy was hospitalized or unable or, out of town or something. I don't know. So I think, obviously he had set that up in advance. I don't remember the details, but I'm not listed, on any of his paperwork or anything. And I knew that. And so I kept saying to him, will you write my name down somewhere with my number and my email in case something happens to you, because I'll never know since I'm not listed on any of your paperwork. I said, I said, on the good to go, page 7 or whatever it was, I don't have one in front of me or I could tell you, but it's got a list of who to contact personally in case of an emergency or in case of your death. And thank God I had him write that down. And he said, oh, I haven't filled out the departure file yet, but I'm going to. And I was just like, just do it. And that's what I'm telling you guys. I mean, I know I always tell you guys this, but I really, really am telling you because I don't want to be a detective. And that's what I am now that Billy's dead. It's just like, okay, well, does anybody know what happened to him? And, did he have a will? I think he had an old one. So I'm going back over the conversations we had and trying to remember. I think he had an old will, but if so, where is it? Is it filed somewhere? Yeah, Melanie's like, did he ever fill it out? I don't know. I kind of don't think so. I think at the very least, he put my name down to let me know if something happened to him. But other than that, I don't have any information. I don't know how he died. I don't know, if he's got a will, if he's got an up-to-date will, if he's just got an old one. I don't know. And it's just... his friends, the person that contacted me, I only met him once many, many years ago. And, he's the one that's burdened with all of this. And he's the one that's got to figure it all out. And, I said to him, I'm more than happy to help clean out his place, because Billy had a lot of stuff, and I think he was kind of a hoarder, but I think that because he had a stroke, 2007, 6, something like that, he liked having boxes piled up and very little room to navigate because it prevented him from falling because he was having balance issues since his stroke. And so I could kind of understand the hoarding thing in that respect, but, and we often talked about his parents and my parents. And I think that's why I've been so sad and griefy, is because I feel like I'm not going to get upset. I think he's kind of the last link, to both of my parents for, here in California for me. And so it's intense. It's kind of a sad loss. Melanie says it's heartbreaking. I know. I don't know what's going on with his dog. I don't know anything. I know. Melanie says, I'm in the process of filling mine out. It's a lot of information. It is a lot of information, but it's a lot of information for me and loved ones to frigging figure out. I'm trying to go back in my mind and did Billy want to be cremated? Did he want to be buried? I know for a fact that I asked him these questions because, hello, this is who I am. I ask everybody these questions. Even at Ralph's, even at the cashier line at Trader Joe's. I'm like, have you thought about your body disposition? That's why I'm so popular. But I don't remember what he said. And I thought, oh, I'll know this. I'll remember this. And I can't remember. So anyway, Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Yes, Sarah says it's so worth the time. And it is. Of course it is. But it's worth it. It is worth it. But I get it. I totally get how it's not a priority in some people's lives. I get it. And that's what I'm fighting against, and trying to shake people and say, I am giving you the tools that you are going to need and that your loved ones are going to need. And I say in the Good to Go video, you know, like, it's hard to convince people of the peace that they don't know they're going to need. And it is. It's so hard. And I was really excited about the exposure that NPR provided. But, you know, a lot of people kind of don't want to make that extra step of actually getting, you know, I had one person write to me and say, I already have a living will. Why would I need Good to Go? And it's just like, well, Good to Go covers everything a living will and a will doesn't cover. It also covers a living will called the 5 Wishes, which we go over, but it just covers everything. Like, somebody has got to close out Billy's life. It's just so sad. And I don't know how he died. And of course, you know, I want to talk to you guys too. Like, of course, when somebody close to you passes away, you want to know the details. You want to know, well, what happened, you know, and did he suffer? That's the thing too. It's like, I hope he didn't suffer. And it's all irrelevant because he's still dead. I mean, I can remember after my mom died, and, you know, I definitely wanted an autopsy because she had passed away suddenly and I didn't know how. And I just thought, it's her daughter, if it's something hereditary or, you know, something I need to be on the lookout for, like breast cancer or something like that, I should know. So, you know, but I was waiting to hear back from the coroner, and everybody was like, what was it? What was it? What was it? What was the thing? Let's pinpoint the thing so we can avoid that and not ever have that, you know. But to me, it's just like, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's important to know, but it kind of doesn't matter because they're still dead, you know. Hi, Dana. So I thought I would show just an example of Billy's art. You know, my cousin Billy was an incredible artist. He drew, he sketched, he sculpted, he worked with clay, he did different paintings, he did oils, acrylics, watercolors. He had a great signature. He was so artistic. And when I was cleaning out my mom's place, my mom always had a piece of Billy's. We spent every Christmas Eve together, my parents, my family, and Billy's family, you know, and through divorces and deaths and all kinds of stuff, you know, every year we would meet up and spend Christmas Eve together. And Billy lived here in California a lot of the times, but he would come into town, hometown, Dayton, Ohio, where I'm from, and he's from. And, you know, I was little. He's 25 years older than me, so I can remember being a young preteen maybe, and then Billy would just swan in at Christmas, and he would be tan and gorgeous, and he was just like hot and gay, and he had this long blonde hair, and he'd wear it in a ponytail, and he had a purse, which for someone in Dayton, Ohio in the 80s, I was just like, oh my gosh, why are you a guy with a purse, you know? And so we, you know, were joking with him about his man bag, and he would just tell all of these, you know, fun tales of what it's like to live an artistic, creative life in California. And it just seemed so glamorous and attainable. You know, initially it was unattainable, but because of him, it was attainable. And he always encouraged my creativity and always, you know, insisted that I do more, especially with art. I mean, I consider myself creative rather than artistic, but my whole family, my mom, my dad, you know, we can all sort of draw basically and, you know, color stuff and make letters, and we all have really good handwriting. A lot of people always comment on our handwriting, but Billy really encouraged that. And I just love this little piece. It was in my mom's bathroom forever. And when she died, I had it and I brought it. So now I have it on my bedside table in my bedroom. And, you know, Billy was so talented. This took him probably 3 seconds to make. And all I know is that he made it after art school, but that's all I know. And then I think he was in some kind of neon orange phase because he had other pieces around his place that were neon orange. But it's so fun when you make stuff with your hands. You know, these are all like Billy's prints. You know, this is from his fingers. This is why I love handmade stuff from our dead rellies, because it just has more meaning, you know? And this isn't him. This isn't his face, although it does look like him just a smidge. But anyway, I love this. And I showed a couple other pieces. I only have 3 in total. And that's another thing. I would love to have some of his art pieces, but if he doesn't have a will, I think it just all becomes, you know, the state owns it or something, you know. I don't even know. You'd think I should know since I'm an advanced planner. But yeah, I mean, I just want to drive to his apartment and go in there and save all the pictures of his parents. And, you know, he's got his mom's ashes. I know he's got my Aunt Teresa's ashes. So like, what happens to those? You know, especially if everything's just turned over to the city or the county or whatever, what are they going to do with them? It doesn't matter. I don't know. Hi, Kat. How's it going? I'm just talking about my cousin and really good friend that passed away over the weekend. He was 75. And that's another thing, you know, people are like, how old was he? You know, it's like as if, you know, when you're old, then it's going to hurt less. And, oh, well, he lived a good life, you know, that kind of thing. But he did live a good life. He lived the life the way he wanted to. And that's kind of all you can ask for. And even though he was depressed because he lived his life as an artist, and obviously that doesn't make millions of dollars unless you're very, very lucky. Kat, I'm just talking about my cousin, my really good friend and cousin. You know, it's one of those family friends, so they're aunts and uncles and cousins, but they're not related to you by blood. But yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, it's just sad. But then I feel happy knowing he's not suffering because, you know, he lived below the poverty level for the last 20, 25 years, you know, as many artists do, as many creative people do. And I am friends with a ton of people. And as we're getting older, you know, this year I'm going to be 50. It's not cute anymore when you're trying to create a life, you know, that's fulfilling and creative, and you're following your dreams and you're hustling to make it happen. You know, unless you're really, really lucky, you're not in it for the money. That's for sure. And that's what, you know, he was up against. And it was really difficult trying to find resources for him. And, you know, and I was doing all the research because he wasn't really good with the internet. So, you know, I helped him get, you know, Meals on Wheels, and hooked him up with the local senior center, which was beautiful and amazing in Palm Springs. And they had art classes every week. And so I was getting him to attend a few of those. And then he stopped. But, you know, it's hard. It was hard for him. And he was constantly trying to balance, you know, what bills need to be paid. And he was diabetic and he was having a really hard time managing that. And so I was trying to get him like an insulin counselor and, you know, just all kinds of stuff, just helping, you know, trying to help. And knowing that it was just hard. And he would just say, you know what, kiddo, we're going to be okay. It's sad. Well, anyway, what are you guys saying? I don't want to cry. Kat says, I hope you have some of his work. Yes, I just was holding it. So I love this. And then I love the other piece. I posted on Instagram. Are you guys following me on Instagram? I'm a Good to Go piece on Instagram. I did a couple stories of his artwork. So the 3 pieces I have of his is this little guy. I've got a art school watercolor that he did. it's just a little sketch and a little watercolor that he did of the house that he grew up in, which is the house that I grew up in because I moved in after he moved away. And so I've got that, and that's hugely sentimental. And so I'm so happy that I have that. And then I have, if you check on Insta stories, a gigantic cement or concrete sculpture of a penis. Billy did a series of hashtag concrete cocks, and sorry if it's a little filthy for you guys, but I'm just being real. And they had such a sense of humor, so he gave me one. And Laura says, I ugly cried today and it helped. Yeah, I've been ugly crying. I'm trying to hold it in though, because I've got to keep it together. I've got a good to go party in an hour and a half or so. People are coming over to my place, and I just feel like that heavy grief. You know, as soon as I found out he died, it was just like, oh, hey, here's the grief, the heavy suit we're going to lay on you, you know, and then instantly you're just like, oh, I could clean the house, but maybe I could just lay here and listen to music and cry. I don't know. I love you too. Oh, Melanie says, we're here for you. It's okay to cry. I love you guys. You're awesome. I know it's okay to cry. I just don't want to. I feel like I'm cried out, you know. And Billy was so helpful in all the death bullshit that I had to deal with, and he knew everybody involved, and he was lovely. And that's the thing that's really great, and it makes me feel better, is that nothing was unspoken. Nothing was unsaid between us. And when we were, you know, in contact, which was really, really frequently, because he didn't have anybody. He was single. He didn't have any kids. You know, I'm single. I don't have any kids. We kind of had each other. And we joked, you know, like, who's going to find us when we die? Is it just going to be like the neighbor's dog gnawing on our toes or something, you know? But, you know, I would check in with him, but every single time, you know, we would always tell each other how we felt, and that, you know, he was really grateful for me helping him. And he had a debilitating stroke. I don't even remember when, 10 years ago, something like that. And so his ability to make a living, you know, doing his art and graphic design literally just went out the window. And so he lost his home. It was foreclosed upon, you know, in the big crash, and he had to downsize to a tiny little apartment. And it was just, it was hard for him, you know, but, you know, we were constantly encouraging each other, and he, you know, was convinced that he wanted to get an iPad so he could start doing his art again and try to make a living, because he was really tired of being broke all the time. And so I just mentioned on my personal Facebook page, you know, being like, hey, you guys, I don't know anything technical. I'm the worst with technical stuff with, you know, iPads and whatever. And I said, does anybody know, like, should I get a used iPad for Billy? Or, you know, because I was going to try to get the money together to buy it. And then all of a sudden, all of my friends, oh my God, I'm going to cry again. I'm not going to cry. All of my friends decided to donate money to get him an iPad. They were like, we are for your senior friend who's an artist. Let's do this. And so I was able to purchase an iPad and a stylus and all this, you know, new Apple Care and all of this stuff. And he was so grateful and so overwhelmed, you know, by everybody's generosity. And it really boosted and elevated his spirits. And I found it incredibly unexpected, because I wasn't expecting people to be like, well, here's some money, you know. But it was just a beautiful, beautiful thing. And Laura says, your direct and compassionate friendship, I'm sure, was so appreciated. You're such a good egg. Thank you. I feel scrambled egg today. I'm a good egg, but I feel scrambled. But yeah, he was really grateful, and he expressed that. And, you know, I always, you know, told him how much I appreciated him. And one of the last times we talked, which was really, you know, beautiful, I was saying something about, oh, I felt my mom around me today, and then I had a fun sign from dad, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And Billy said, you know what? I think I'm just going to have to think a different way. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, well, you live with your parents, you know, with them around you, and you incorporate them in your life, and it's like they're still around you. And I said, yeah, you know, that's how I choose to, you know, live. And he said, well, you're just going to have to make me think differently. He said, now I'm just going to have to live the rest of my life knowing that my parents are around me, my loved ones. And I'm like, yeah, you should. But it's just one of those things where, you know, everybody's different, but I was trying to convince him that, you know, his mom and dad are around him. And he told me of a beautiful dream that he had, a visitation dream after his dad, my Uncle Jack, died. And he said that he saw him in a car park near the beach, and he was looking for his car. His dad was looking for his car. And a lot of times, we've talked about this before, a lot of times when you have a visitation dream, they take place around transportation. You are in transit. You are ready to go from point A to point B, you know, and point B being the great beyond. And he said he felt so comforted over seeing his dad looking for the car, you know, which I love. Kat says, Kat says, she's an awesome egg for sure. That's really sweet of you. I appreciate that. And he was a great guy. He was salty, though. Don't get me wrong. He had an abrasive side to his personality that came out. But, you know, this is the thing. You love people who aren't necessarily easy to love, you know, and even though I loved Billy with all of my heart, I would always, you know, there was always a like, oh my God, I love you, but you're crazy, you know? And I was honest with him. I was just like, you are crazy. I mean, he would come up with some super crazy, filthy conspiracy theories, which is so shocking and filthy that I'm not going to share them on the Good to Go Facebook page. But so much so that, you know, I would always go visit him when I would go out to the desert. You guys know I love the desert. I go out to Joshua Tree as much as humanly possible because it's only 2 hours away. Palm Springs is only 2 hours away. So I would try to go into Palm Springs, take him out to lunch or take him to the grocery or, you know, do whatever I could for him and then hang out. Or sometimes he lived in an apartment complex with a pool. Sometimes I'd just bring, you know, my pool stuff and we just hang out by the pool all day. And I'd bring him some cocktails and we'd have a little cocktail by the pool. But, you know, I introduced one of my friends to him when we were on our way out to the desert. And within 5 minutes, Billy just spewed forth some kind of incredibly ridiculous, incredibly obviously untrue conspiracy theory that was really filthy. And it just made me laugh so hard. And I leaned over to my friend was just kind of like, oh, and I said, oh, I forgot to tell you, Billy likes to share information that's completely unproven and unsubstantiated. I said, you know, some people call them completely made up, but Billy likes to share them. And I said, Billy, where did you get this information? And he said, I saw it on the internet. And I'm like, well, obviously, it must be true then. Oh, my goodness. Melanie says, we choose the people to stay in our lives for different reasons. He was meant to stay in your life for his lifetime. That makes me cry. It's true. He was. Anyway. And now I'm having a hot flash. Hot flash plus grief equals good times. Anyway, he's not suffering. And that's all that matters. The loved ones left behind are the ones that suffer. That's the pisser. You know, when I had a dream of my mom, a visitation dream after my mom died, she came to me and she says, I'm okay. I'm like, oh, well, that's nice that you're okay. We're not okay. What the hell? Laura says, I totally remember you telling Billy stories when we were out at the desert. What a gift to have all these characters in our lives. I know. I mean, he was a character. Of all the people, you know, even though he was eccentric and a little strange, you know, he was a unique person, uniquely him, you know. He was not boring. He was not normal. And, you know, life is too short to be normal and boring. And he was not. Bless him. I wanted to talk, I'm going to wrap up because I'm just getting emotional. But I wanted to talk just a minute about the designer Kate Spade's suicide. So sad. She was 55. And I just had this to say. Well, first of all, if any of you loved ones are grieving over a loved one that committed suicide, my heart goes out to you. I'm sending you a big hug. It's just the hardest. I mean, as many as of, unanswered questions that I have about my friend Billy and the way he went, at least I know that he was 75 and he lived a long life and he was kind of ready to go. You know, his health was getting worse and I could tell it was getting harder and harder for him. I was freaking out because I was just like, how am I going to, help him when he can't live independently anymore? And I was trying to look into places maybe in the desert where I could, like a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. Maybe I could live in one side and he could live in the other. But I mean, I probably would have choked him because he's so crazy, but God love him. And he was so set in his ways, so prideful and stubborn. But, at least I know that he lived a good full life. He didn't have any kids, that kind of thing. But with Kate Spade, she's got a 13-year-old daughter and obviously a husband and, family and a business. Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine the nightmare of the business untangling that has to be done. It's just... Melanie says, I wish I could hug you, so I'm sending you virtual hugs. Thank you for all of your virtual hugs. I appreciate it and feel them. All of your cosmic love is coming at me, and I appreciate it. It makes me feel a lot better. But I've read a lot online. My point being with Kate Spade, I've read a lot online about how, oh my gosh, it's so selfish. A lot of people are getting super judgy. And saying it's very selfish of her to end her life. And I get that. I used to think differently about suicide. I used to think, how can anyone commit suicide when they've got kids or people they love? And then I started looking or experiencing friends and, relatives with mental illness. And I realized that they don't look at it that way. They think they're doing their loved ones a favor by being out of their lives. And it's that crucial little switch that is flipped in their mind and that you and I don't understand, and we're lucky that we don't have that switch. But I just want to send compassion out to people who are in pain and hurting. And I have a very dear friend who, one late night we were talking and she was saying, I've had suicidal thoughts. I just think that everybody would be better off, that no one would miss me. And I was so offended, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, you are one of my best soul friends. I'm crying. I'm just like, don't believe the voice that tells you that. Don't believe that voice of the asshole roommate that's moved into your head that tells you that nobody's gonna care. Everybody cares. I can name 8 million people who care about you, And the look on her face was just of such surprise. Like, what? It's like a news flash. Spoiler alert. People care about me? You mean I'm not, worthless? So it's tough. Kat says, loved ones of mine never visit me. I wish they would. I've begged for my mom to visit, but nothing, darn it. Well, I believe then that you don't, even though you might want to have a visitation from your loved ones don't feel you need it. Even though you were like, no, I need it. Come on. You never know. You never know when they're going to come. But I think it's good that you're asking him, because I think that's good. I mean, I asked Billy if he would come. He hasn't visited yet. I have a feeling he's adjusting. His cynical heart is like, oh, wait a minute. This is everything that Amy told me she thought I was going to be like. And maybe he just doesn't want to feel like he's wrong and I was right. So maybe he's not ready to come visit me yet. I don't know. But anyway, compassion for people who are hurting. If you know of anyone who's feeling, down and feels like nobody would ever miss them or care. And look, I'm going to be 50 this year. I've had some hormonal depression. Sorry, TMI oversharing, but this is what happens when estrogen leaves the party when you're getting older. And even in that kind of hormonal depression, I couldn't see that spiritual side that that fortifies me. I couldn't see the cosmic perspective. I couldn't, connect with that. I just felt like it was all sucking. Just everything was sucking. I couldn't find any positive stuff. So much so I would sit down with my journal and I've got to get back to gratitude and what's going on with this, with this sad feeling. It felt like grief. But it wasn't. It was just hormonal depression with a little smidge of grief thrown in. So luckily, I'm kind of out of that because I'm taking natural supplements. So I'm not in that kind of fraudulent headspace anymore, thank God. But there's a lot of people out there who can't get out of it, So I'm just there are resources. There's help if you need it, and just have some compassion. So thanks for listening. I didn't really take any kind of super, elaborate questions or anything. I just wanted to come on and talk about Billy, because he didn't want to serve us, as far as I remember him saying, and he's so salty. I don't know if anybody would come, but all the people that loved him showed him a lot of grace, a lot of patience. And we understood that he was, basically good at heart. He just had a little salty, crusty exterior sometimes. And I think that happens too when you get old. But, oh, thanks. I love you too. But anyway, I just wanted to say that I loved Billy. He was a good guy. And he is rocking it out. I know where he's going to be hanging out on Christmas Eve. So that'll be fun. Little reunion on the other side. Maybe a little euchre. Are you guys card players? Is that just like a Midwest thing? We just play cards in the Midwest. We play cards with my Aunt Teresa and Uncle Jack all the time. I love euchre. I would love to find someone in LA to play euchre. But anyway, I posted some of his artwork, some of it sassy, on my Instagram stories. And you can go follow me on @GoodToGoPeace. And next week on Grievers and Groovers, I'll let you know how the Good to Go party went tonight. If anybody shows up. No, they'll show up. They've paid in advance, so they'll show up. And although I'm going to be honest with you guys, I didn't really clean a lot in my house. I just hope when they come over, they're not going to look under cushions and expect it to be vacuumed and dusted within an ounce of its life. So anyway, thanks you guys for sending all the hearts. I really appreciate it. And sending you guys big love. And I know Laura's like, euchre. I know, I want to play euchre. And Dana says, I think it's a real Ohio thing. That's how I learned it from some Buckeye babes. That's awesome. That's hilarious. Kat says, you're great for just coming on and talking. I appreciate it. I almost canceled it because I thought, I know I'm going to cry. I'm quite proud of myself. I didn't go into the ugly cry. So I'm quite proud of myself for getting a grip. But ain't nothing wrong with crying, because if you can't cry over your dead rellies, who can you cry over? You know what I'm saying? So sending you guys a big hug, and I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for listening, and I appreciate it. You guys made me feel a lot better. All right. Take care, you guys. See you next week. Bye.